You're watching Leafs Morning Tape with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
It is Monday, October 28th, and Jake McCabe has signed a fresh new 5-year extension with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill, Monday edition of Leafs Morning Tape. What's happening, Rosie?
Yeah, it is. Kind of feels like a Monday today, but I like these game days, baby. Is this Prime again?
Back on Prime, we're going to tee that up coming up. The Leafs and the Winnipeg Jets. That's a feature presentation as per usual. Look at last week. The Maple Leafs did pretty damn well on Prime Monday Night Hockey, Rosie.
Yes, they did. That was when everyone, including myself and possibly you, got ahead of themselves and thought they had found a new gear that they'd be able to access all the time. 3 games later is not quite the case, but yeah, a big time test for them. And I don't know if they're ready or not, man. I'm still just kind of like, all right, like I don't have too much to say until they show me something different. They're trying to find some things. They're close here and there. Bunch of excuses, token answers in the post game interviews. I don't know. I'm just looking for something to start clicking, man.
Wait, that wasn't the Stanley Cup final last Monday? Felt that way.
It looked good. I hope it is. I hope it is how they look in the playoffs because, again, they show they're capable, right? But not 3 stinkers, 2 stinkers, and a tight one against their nemesis. That I didn't know the numbers were that lopsided for Boston, Toronto. Like they just have their number like crazy. Obviously, with the series wins and whatnot, but to take them to Game 7 in the spring, I kind of thought they were a little closer. But their regular season numbers are abysmal against them.
5 more years for Jake McCabe, hot off the press, 4.51 per season, $20.5 million. I really like this deal, Rosie.
Yeah, it's nice. This day and age, the numbers just keep climbing and climbing and climbing, and that's like it's a good indicator of how the league's doing, and the cap's going up. So these numbers are going up, but this guy seems like that's a solid little number, 4.5. I think he's worth it. The term, he's 30, 31 years old. I'm a Jake McCabe fan. He's playing with different guys. I liked him with Benoit. He kind of complements guys that are around him. He plays hard. He plays rugged. He's a defensive defenseman. He can chip in a little bit here and there. He moves the puck well. I think he's smart. He's got a bit of an edge. I just think he looks great in the Leafs uniform, and they locked him down for the foreseeable future, which I got no issues with this contract. You?
No, I don't. Like I've maintained from the beginning, if the number makes sense, go ahead and make the deal. Because how often have we been talking the last couple weeks, couple months about trying to have as much cap space as possible to reimagine your roster if we need to do that after this season. But I think that cap hit's way too good to pass up. Like I do feel like Jake McCabe left some money on the open market. If he were to go to open market, I think he's getting more than 4.51 million per season. And I think you look at that deal from the Leafs perspective, how do you not sign him to that extension? It would take him 32 to 36. I think he's the type of guy, he's a glue guy in the back end, hard rock off to a really, really good start. He's coming off a deal that paid him $4 million per season. Like he didn't ask for the world. And I think both sides realized that. And that's why a deal came together really quickly here.
Yeah, and it shows he likes being here, believes in the team, wants to be here long term. Yeah, I mean, you look at the Leafs defenseman over the years, you've kind of always been looking for that Jake McCabe guy. He's not the guy that gets you to win the Stanley Cup, but he's a piece of that pie, right? And they don't fall on trees. Defensemen like him, they don't grow on trees, rather. And he's not breaking the bank. It's just, there's nothing about it that I don't know. I'm gonna wheel through Twitter later, and I can't imagine there's too many naysayers about this thing. If you want to let him go and not pay him that, then who the hell are you looking for? You know?
Well, that's exactly it, right? The moment you lose a Jake McCabe, you're looking for a Jake McCabe. My concern was like the price tag, but then this deal goes down, and I'm like, I feel really comfortable with Jake McCabe at 4.51 million bucks for the next 5 seasons. Like I really do. As mentioned, I guess he'll be in his 36th year in the final year of this contract, but still, I think it takes him through some core years, some strong years. I think he's a good skater. I like how physical he plays. Like I just think he's a good fit for this roster, and I think it's an impeccable piece of business to get him in at that price.
Yeah, like you say, the term and the number, nothing makes you think, oh dear,
Yeah.
maybe on the last year of his contract, if he slows down a little bit and the games just keeps getting quicker and quicker and he's getting a tiny bit older, fine. But I mean, it's not one of those terms where you're like, oh my God, that he's not going to be worth that halfway through this thing. It's not that way. A lot of positives, check marks here, there. term, money, player. I just like it all. And I think that it was kind of a no-brainer. And it's nice that they're not in a deadlock and he expects to get 6.5 or something like that. And it's like, come on, guys, no one's even close here. Like I said, he seems like he wants to be here. He believes in the team, signs on that line, little bit of a raise, but nothing crazy. Kind of locks him up through the end of his career, most likely. And it's good for him, a good day for him. And I think the Leafs are going to benefit from it too. Like you say, if you don't have Jake McCabe, you're looking for a Jake McCabe. So it's a no-brainer.
And to that point, every penny counts, right? Like, how often have we talked about contracts on this show? And I think when you can sign a McCabe to that type of price tag, considering the salary cap is going to continue to go up the next couple of years, like, again, a win all around, but you need every penny possible to improve this roster. And I do felt the same way about the Max Domi extension this past summer, where I do think the player left some money on the table, which again is refreshing to see for this organization, Rosie.
I know usually you got to overpay for guys to come here, and I just think it's a good sign that these guys that have got here in the last couple of years, they don't head for the hills once they get a taste of Toronto and the media and the spotlight and everything there. They haven't exactly had glowing success that they would have wanted, but it seems like they believe in this team and they want to do something special, and they like the way it's headed. They like the personnel. They like playing on that in that stage, right? It's different than playing for most other teams in the league, and these guys seem to have a positive outlook on it, so much so they're willing to maybe take a little bit of a haircut to stay there if you want to go test the open market and maximize your dollars, which, let's be honest, most guys want to do that in their prime while they're an athlete making money. You have a certain window to make it, and most guys want to maximize that dollar figure, which just about everyone in the world wants to do that with their job. But these guys are kind of saying, no, I'm comfortable here. I like the way the team's headed, the direction it's going. I want to be here long term. I want to help the team. And they sign these deals that I don't think are going to come back to bite them in the arse, because I think these guys are worth it for the terms they're signing.
Yeah, definitely not this deal. And the thing I love about Jake McCabe, he's your prototypical let my play do the talking. Like, when's the last time you heard from Jake McCabe? Like, for all the voices we hear in the Maple Leafs media with some of their players, you never hear from Jake McCabe. And quite frankly, that concerned me. Like, I really did wonder, without knowing anything about the situation, if he wanted this smoke in Toronto. And I love the fact that he wants to be a Maple Leaf, man.
Yeah, like, he's one of those guys you don't have to worry about, right? He's not your number one guy that's going to win you a series and all that, but he's an important piece of the puzzle on a defensive core who does those right things. He plays physical, he can move the puck. He's quiet, and there's a reason you don't see him all the time, because he's not the guy that stands out like Mitch Marner did on Saturday and gets all the question. The media scrum is all around him. It's just kind of, he quietly does his job, quietly collects his paycheck, and quietly does what he's asked. And for a guy that slots into that spot on the D-core, you need him to do those things. It's very important, but it's not the flashiest thing in the world. He's not the guy you're talking about after every single game, and rightfully so. As a defenseman, I used to play D. Sometimes quietly, if you just quietly did your job, if nobody noticed you, you probably had a good game. And sometimes that's the case. And Jake McCabe is one of those guys where you just ask him to do his job, and it's not an easy job. That position of playing defense a proper way to log his minutes and kind of do everything well rounded, it's not an easy position to do. It's not easy to find those guys, and when you do and it works, I think it's smart to lock them up like they just did.
Seems like a perfect fit for Craig Berube as well. Meantime, it's been an interesting start when it comes to goal scoring in this league. Like, Nico Hischier leads the entire NHL here as we start the final week of October in goals with 9. Austin Matthews scores his 4th over the weekend. I give you the field against Austin Matthews. Who are you taking for the Rocket Richard?
I think the field, man. It's those odds are just better, but I don't need him to pop off and get 70, right? I just need him to lead that team and score the important goals when it matters. I don't care if he has a game where he gets 4 goals in December. Like, it's just, I don't really watch the leaderboards. I just want this to be a well-rounded team where everyone can contribute, and you have depth, and you have an identity, and you guys all are on the same page. And obviously they're still looking for that here and with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think some people, kind of myself included, wanted it to be just this magic kind of button that is pressed where Craig Berube gets there and everyone wakes up and goes, okay, we got to play a certain way. And after that Monday game against Tampa, everyone looked around and said, is that what they're going to be now? And that was just too exciting. Like it looked so well rounded from the way they spread everything out around the forwards. Their goaltender was playing phenomenal. Their defense are playing rugged and chipping in offensively. And the power play had something at least. And they're killing penalties and they're physical, but they're skilled and their attention to detail and commitment to defense. It was like, whoa. And everyone got excited. And obviously, they can't just access that at will. But I think that's where they're trying to head. And right now, I'm kind of impartial on these Leafs. I'm sitting, waiting patiently, going, okay, I've had time to adjust and figure out what works and what doesn't. You've had some tests against some big teams. You've had some ones that you probably should have gotten that have gotten away from you. Now Monday night on Prime, the red hot Winnipeg Jets are at your doorstep. And again, it's just another test to see what they have if they can access. Can they access their best? Can they get something going? Can they do enough to beat this team that has got everything going for them right now? Another big test for them.
I'm going to go with Austin Matthews to bring it full circle to what I asked off the top, the field against Austin Matthews. I know you got long-winded there. I get it. You're jacked for this game tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. I still believe in my guy. Like, I think Matthews is so talented that he can score 40, 45 goals in his sleep. And I'm right there with you. I understand what you're saying, but I just think he's such a way better goal scorer than anybody in this league. The fact that he has 4 goals in the first, 9 games of the season, and it's deemed off by his standards. Whereas everybody else, guys like Caulfield and Hischier, it's been great starts for them. I just don't know if this clip, if they're capable of keeping this clip up. Where Matthews is like, there's like 7 other levels to get to here. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, those other guys are playing way above their head, and Austin's playing under. So the cream's going to rise to the top here. That's going to even out. Come talk to me at Christmas and see where these guys are at. I don't think Hischier's going to be leading the league at that point in time, and Caulfield's probably going to cool off. And I don't think Austin's got anywhere to go but up from where he's going compared to his standards. So again, whether he wins the Rocket or not, I don't really care, man. I'm only interested in what he can do as far as leading this team. And if that happens and he gets that award, wow, scoring the big goals and like he did on Saturday to get that tying goal, to get it into overtime with a couple minutes left, that's that clutch factor that you want from that guy. I don't care if he has 4 goals against Columbus one night. I just don't care if that adds up to 70 or not. Score 52 and I'm totally happy if that team is following you and you guys all have this ability to access your best hockey all the time, which they just have not had in the past. Yes, they're capable. It's just, again, they're shades of brilliance and then shades of dog shit. And they just need to cut out with the inconsistency. And Craig Berube needs to get them to figure out how to fall in line where they always can access at least a part of their best hockey and give himself a chance every night. Obviously, they're not there right now.
Looking forward to tonight's edition of the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips. Make sure to check that out directly following the conclusion of the Leafs and Winnipeg Jets game. And Carter Hutton's going to stop by tonight's show, which is only fitting. I think it could be a goaltending duo. We don't know who's going to be the starter for the Maple Leafs, but rest assured it's going to be Connor Hellebuyck for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yes, for sure. They're red hot, obviously 8-0. Flames gave them a run there on Saturday, but penalty trouble bit them. They've been perfect, right? And Hellebuck's been great, so they're going to have to find a way to solve them. It would be very Leafy of them to rattle off like a regulation win against these guys and break their streak and get back on track. Leafs do things their own way. We know that. So a big test, man. They don't seem to get too many freebies in this league, and this is certainly not one of them. It was a pretty good test against Boston on Saturday. First game against them since that game 7 in the playoffs, and they came close and dropped it. They score first. They seem to be in the game all night and then just didn't work out. Get to overtime, get a point, fine, move on. But if they want to keep putting the building blocks together and moving forward, a really good performance against a really hot team right now would be just the thing to do.
It would be very Leafy, that's for sure. Don't forget to hit us with your super chats at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And also don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Prime Monday Night Hockey on Prime Video is here, the exclusive home for the NHL on Monday nights in Canada. For the second straight week, as you all know, the Leafs will be featured tonight. They're in Winnipeg to tango with Connor Hellebuyck and the Red Hot Winnipeg Jets. Fans can watch Prime Monday Night Hockey on Prime Video at no added cost through their membership. Just check out the sports section when you're inside the app. Fans that currently don't have a Prime membership can sign up for a 30-day free trial. Additionally, students are able to sign up for a 6-month free trial at amazon.ca/Amazon Prime. Prime Monday Night Hockey. It's on Monday. It's on Prime. Looking forward to that broadcast tonight. But first, we got to recap the game, as you mentioned, from Saturday. Leafs and the Bruins, a 4-3 OT win. I mentioned it just prior to the start of OT. It reeked of a Brad Marchand OT winner. I thought it was a very Leafy, prototypical Leafs loss in Boston, where they own play in OT. Boston comes back and they score off a giveaway.
Yes, it was fairly leafy, and you did call that. I smell a Brad Marchand game winner, which is not very positive of you, but bang on. And that guy continues to own us. They continue to drop, and they're close. Like leafiness, they get so close, just play good enough to almost win, but just not actually win. And it comes down to their captain who got them to overtime. Mitch Marner was, on fire. He was finding all the seams, making those nice passes, creating the plays that led to getting them into overtime in the first place. And then, with 3-on-3 and having all that space for Austin to just spin around, not even look, and just wing it towards where he thinks the guy is, and the guy's changing, then it goes down. And then some kind of bad defending, like Morgan Rielly. Nice goal, his 800th game. I know that kind of over, but like, how often is he over back checking and ending up damn near like in the corner or behind the net, where that effort wasn't even what scored the goal? It's when he over back checks and gets himself out of position, and then they bury it. Just sometimes I feel like the defensive, he's with him quite a bit. I don't want to rag on him today, but just clean those things up, man. You got to be a little sharper and a little cleaner, and like they got to realize that that one boneheaded play and mistake, and it's always the difference maker in that league, and they can't quite put enough together to seem to rattle off these wins. And I mean, they're looking for a win right now, 3 in a row. 2 of them were gross, and now you got a really hot opponent coming in. There's a lot going on for the Leafs right now, and I don't think they're panicking or anything like that. But we even said in the summer, if these guys don't get off to the hottest start and have some growing pains, we're okay with it, as long as they're deleting that garbage from their DNA and starting to put together a more winning attitude and being able to access it more often than not. So they're going to continue down that path, and hopefully Monday night here on Prime with, again, the Jets. They're just as hot as a pistol, but I wouldn't put it past the Leafs to knock them off their pedestal and get back on track.
Well, firstly, my apologies if there's some humming feedback. I don't know what they're doing outside my condo right now, but it seems to be important work on a Monday morning at 11:18 a.m. It sounds like they're cutting grass, which is bizarre to me. It's October 28th, but hang with us. It's the trials and tribulations of working from a condo doing a podcast. But yeah, I echo your sentiments. I always leave games against Boston wondering, why do the Bruins always have the answer? You know what I mean? Like, the Leafs have a strong start. They're up 2-1, and the 2 goals in 35 seconds in the second period. Then they tie it up, and then the Leafs are dominating OT, and then Boston muscles right back. It's their captain who's been under scrutiny for the last couple weeks. He scores the winner. They always seem to rise up to the occasion, and that's what pisses me off when I watch this Leafs team sometimes.
The Bruins, they're proven winners, man. I mean, their attitude and their DNA and their identity is to further brow and just not accept anything. And they go through walls for each other, for the team, and they just get the job done, where the Leafs are just more fragile. They just simply are. And they're working on that, and they're trying to create this identity. I bet you I'll say identity 300 times in, the first portion of this season, but they're trying to create that, right? And right now and for years and years and years, they've had kind of a fragile identity. They have potential and they show glimpses, but then they shatter very quickly, and they go on these inexplicable slides, and they get beat by Columbus when they should have every reason in the world to put it all together. But then they remind you that with flashes of brilliance, where they come together and grind out a good one, but they're just not quite the Boston Bruins yet. And Boston has implemented a winning DNA, and it's been in there for a decade and a half, and it is what it is. The Leafs are learning, and they don't have that track record to fall back on. And ultimately, this group needs to prove that they have the ability and the leadership to create that. And you got Craig Berube in there. He's a big piece of trying to implement that as well. But I'm just sorry that just there's no other way to spin it. The Leafs are not the Boston Bruins. They just have not been able to be them. They haven't had the killer instinct. They haven't had the consistency, and they just haven't had that pure ability to affect games in their favor by sheer will. And they just seem too fragile at times. And I think they're working on that. And like I said, for this regular season, I don't really care what their record is or who gets some award or accolade or leads the league. I could give a shit. I just want them to be able to figure out how to be a really solid, sturdy, non-fragile playoff hockey team where they can just take a stranglehold on a series and finish it and win 4-2 and move on to the second round. Give them a real good go. Get that to game 6, win it, get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's go. They're looking for that, man. And all I can say is that I think Craig Berube is like something needs to change in that locker room because it's just the same stuff over and over for years. Craig's got to be a piece of the puzzle if it's going to happen.
This one made me laugh in the chat. Invictus Mineo, Algebra only watches Leafs games and nothing else. You can tell by his weak takes.
Who's that? Nick?
Somebody in the chat alleges that I
you
just
though,
watch
or me?
Leafs games. Pardon
you
me?
only watch? Who's
Yeah,
he saying?
Algebra. My last name's Algebra, right?
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. What a take.
Sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
What a take, because I rest assured I'm probably the only one in this country up on a Tuesday night watching San Jose and Columbus. So appreciate the take. Thank you so much for watching. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I love to roast people in the chat sometimes.
That's way off, though. I always taught you're always watching hockey like a single dude whose life is hockey. You know what's going on in the league. I ask you for what's happening most of the time. So that's way off. I'm
taking strays. I'm taking strays on a Monday morning. Leafs fans are pissed off. I get it. 3 apples for Mitch Marner. I know I got some heat on Saturday, but I actually put it out there. I thought he was good. Like I thought he was way better than he's been in some of the prior staff felt the same way. But that was a couple of really good plays, including the one that set up the tying goal for Matthews there.
Yeah, he's always looking to create, and sometimes it's to a fault in my mind. Like, you're looking to create this fanciest play ever, and it just looks like garbage when it doesn't work, and it looks like you're not committed to a certain process. But then when he puts it together like he did on Saturday, he can be the difference maker in a game. And he's got the ability, he's got the talent. There's just no question about that. It's how are you applying that and how are you putting that on paper and what are the results of it? And if you're good is good enough to keep rattling off wins and you're literally affecting the outcome of games, then that's what he needs to be. But if oftentimes you're straying off the path and off the direction that this team's trying to go as far as playing north-south hockey and all the thing that Berube is challenging him to do, then there's going to be problems. So I think he's trying to find his way of how much of my creativity and my skill and my ability am I going to put out there to try and affect a game, and how much do I just need to stay on course. And Saturday night was an example where it was all going right for him. Totally affected the outcome of the game, of even having them in the game and getting them to overtime. A lot of nice vision, a lot of nice plays that worked out, and guys were finishing it on the other end. And there's a reason he played all those minutes. And Berube talked about, I almost overused him, but he was going so well. And, you get into overtime and the minutes start ticking up, and he was very effective on the penalty kill. So, Mitch is going to be out there a lot, and there was an example of a great game from him.
Jeff writes in, can confirm the single guy watching all games thing. I appreciate that. Tammy writes in with a super chat. Appreciate that, Tammy. The trials and tribulations of working on a podcast in a condo by Nick Alberga coming to bookstores 2025. I think the forward's going to be by Jay Rosehill as well. But thank you to everybody bearing with me on that front. So I got a hypothetical to throw your way. It's a Thursday night. Your wife wants to bake a blame pie, okay? What are your ingredients in the blame pie for the Maple Leafs power play? Like, who deserves the most blame to go around?
Who deserves the most blame? it's a collective group. Like, I can't say Austin Matthews, you're the reason that's wrong. I can't say Morgan Riley, you're the reason that's wrong. And if it were that easy, they'd fix it. But I mean, you could say they hire a guy and bring him in to be the power play specialist from Calgary, and it's like they didn't even have a good power play. I mean, you could blame the front office for that and say you bring in a power play guy and are like, what did he change? I would point towards that. Maybe like Berube's like, why'd you put in Morgan Riley? And he's like, just to see if anything happens. Like, it's inexplicable. There's no, if it were easy and obvious, they would just make the change. But nobody knows why it's not clicking. In my mind, when you ask them about, how is your power play going, or how are your entries? I think they said, I think it was to Mitch, and they're just like, yeah, I don't know, maybe like I don't know, maybe try to like get her deep and chase, or maybe like a wrap or a rim and try something like that. I don't know. And it just screamed the fact that they don't really have a plan. And that's always been my attack against this power play, is it doesn't look like they have a structure. Like, come up with the best outline on what this group can do as far as your breakout, your entry, and your setup on the power play. And it has to have some structure where every guy on the ice knows what that guy's doing at that point in time, whether you're coming through the neutral zone or coming over the blue line or setting it up down low. Everyone knows what the MO is. And it seems like they're always just freewheeling it. And that's my biggest, complaint about this, is it doesn't look structured. And even in their responses to it, that you can tell they're just saying, I don't know, maybe try this thing or maybe chuck that against the wall. And I'm just like, it does not seem structured. It doesn't look like everyone knows what's going on. It looks like they're just throwing it up in the air and trying it and seeing if it works. And it's clearly not working. So I would probably point to the coaching staff, and which isn't really even Berube. It's kind of the guys that are brought in to become this. Like Savard is supposed to be the power play guy, and the
Yep.
power play is garbage. So like, are you going to do something that changes it? And it doesn't really look like there's that an all-out effort to change anything. They just keep trying it and waiting and hoping, and I just don't know if that's enough.
So if I'm making this pie, I think normally it would be like 60 on the coach, 40 on the players. But I think in this instance, Rosie, it's got to be like a 70-30 split. And it's going to be a pretty damn good pie, because I couldn't believe I tuned into the game on Saturday and their big change to the power play was putting Morgan Riley back on PP1. Like, you're kidding me. I think, I don't know. I'm at a point where I think some of these players have terms in their contracts where I must be on PP1. Like, that's the only logical answer. They're 3 for 30 on the year. Like, they had the 5-on-3 over the weekend. They can't even score with a 2-man advantage. Like, it's insanity to me. And it makes way too much sense to split these guys up between two units, and they still won't do it. So I'm blaming the coach. I'm sorry. I'm blaming Mark Savard, who is in charge of trying to figure out this power play, and nobody has a single answer right now.
No, I would agree. I mean, you're beating your head against the wall at this point, right? Just trying the same thing over and expecting different results. It's not really happening. And we've seen this movie before in different sectors of the game, where they continually do the same thing over again and expect a different result. And it's like, well, when are you going to get the picture? But the power play is finicky. It's fickle. You can sometimes do the same thing, and then all of a sudden it just starts working. And I get how they have all that talent and offensive power, and say, well, there's just no way this isn't going to work eventually. Like, look at who we have on there. These guys understand how to put the puck in the net and how to make plays. So it's just like almost unacceptable that it's not. So they keep trying it. But yeah, I mean, when is enough enough? Are you going to break though? Like, why are
I
Mitch
know.
and Austin just joined at the hip? Like, is it in their contract they have to play with each other? Why can't, I mean, whether it looks like a demotion or not, I don't care. There's no way they can put their palms up and go, what the hell? Look at the writings on the board. You guys aren't doing screw all on the power play. It's abysmal. It's getting embarrassing. We're going to do anything to mix it up. And I would be on board with totally blowing it up for a few games just to have different looks at it, and then just have something different and see if that changes anything. But they're just going straight ahead and saying, no, we are stubborn. We are leaving it like this, and something's going to give. And I mean, what's their timeline? When is enough enough? I don't know. I would like to see something change, and that seems like the logical thing to do to make something happen, is make a drastic change then. And they're just not willing to do it so far. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is, but every game that ticks by with more dog shit numbers coming out of that peeper, you start to scratch your head more and more saying, are they going to just continue on this path or are they going to try to change something?
Well, it's pretty much it. Like, man, when's the time to explore? Right now. It
Yeah,
is October
totally.
28th. It's the
October.
first 10 games of the season. My other thing is like, what's the worst that can happen? If you have a unit with Nylander on PP2 and then like Tavares and you want to mix and match some guys, like what's the worst that can happen? You were 3 for 30. I do not understand like why they won't make that switch or that trial run for 5 games to see what their power plays look like. It's I don't know. Again, there has to be something in their contracts to suggest they got to be on PP1 because that is Looney Tune stuff to see Morgan Riley back on PP1 when it hasn't worked 17 times before.
Yeah, I know. The only reason I can think is you don't want to get someone's nose out of joint or, someone's going to
Oh,
be
boo-hoo,
demoted, which
man. Like,
I think it's completely bullshit. But that's the only reason I can think is like, we believe in you guys. You're going to be the one to get us out of this. So let's keep having the meetings and keep trying. And it's just, I don't know.
it's making me physically ill, Rosie.
It's
Watching the
wild.
power play, it's making me sick.
It's
It's
wild
making
it's
me
that bad. It's wild that it's that bad and that there's no change. There just doesn't appear to be any like if you're Mark Savard and you come in and you get hired and you put on that Maple Leaf tracksuit and you're in charge of all these players and getting that PP done and you're watching what we're watching, aren't you just scrambling to make some kind of a pretty considerable noticeable change to try to jog something loose? You can always go back to the obvious. You can always go back to your default settings of having the big boys out there, of course. But when you're struggling like this and the numbers are what they are and you're watching the same garbage over and over again, why wouldn't you like make a drastic change just to say, holy smokes, like I'm paid to do this. It's not working. You just sit there and go, no, I just keep doing it. It'll happen. Like that really, that's your strategy. It seems odd. I would have thought we'd seen more change and more, drastic, like moving puzzle pieces around just to try to jog something free, but they're stuck stubbornly on no, this is something's going to break here. And every single game, they're like, okay, now this is the chance. But I don't see them doing anything differently on the ice, and they just keep getting the same results. And nobody's connected. No one's on the same page. No one seems to know what the other guy's gonna do, and they just keep winging it. Hopefully that it's gonna, and it's just not. It's frustrating, man. And I don't know. I am starting to lean towards like, well, obviously it's like the players are responsible and they're supposed to be the stars. Like, figure it out there. But without any structure or change, you're starting to question like, what is the plan here?
Pretty much the way I feel. I'm done talking about the power play for today's show because it's going to be a recurrence throughout the season. Phil Myers makes his Maple Leafs debut, -1, place 12-11. It's probably like the way I would break down his Maple Leafs debut. I think it's no secret Jani Hakanpaa is going to be that guy if and when he's ready to return, maybe in the next couple of weeks. But it's cool to see a story like Phil Myers, right? Because the guy's been an NHL journeyman. It's been tough for him to crack an NHL roster, gets an opportunity. I don't think he looked out of place, but I do think there are some upgrades that they can utilize instead of him.
Yeah, like he's not going to be the answer to come in and be the difference maker. That's not even what they expect or ask of him. It's
Yeah.
tough for a guy to come in his position with his minutes and really shine and be like, oh my, like we cannot take him out of the lineup now. Again, it's one of those positional spots where you probably don't notice him a whole lot, and you really got to go deep through the layers and watch the video to see how much he was doing well and wasn't. But again, I think there's probably 3-4 guys that are interchangeable on that back end, and they're all going to get interchanged throughout throughout the season and up until Jani Hakanpaa comes back and says, I think when he gets in there, it's going to be noticeable and it's going to be like, okay, there it is. And now, but right now we're just kind of spinning our wheels. They're basically done with Lilligren. I mean, not even trying to put him out there to showcase
I
him at
know.
all. So I think Chiefs just not interested in him. And I think everyone, including myself, is just waiting for Hakanpaa to get in there. I mean, he was the guy that they signed. He was the guy that has some pedigree. He was the guy that we were kind of excited about saying, all right. And he just hasn't got a chance to jump in there. Again, I don't really know like what's going on with his knee and how big of a deal it is, but it sounds like he's traveling with the team and he's getting very, very close. So I am very excited for that because everything else that's going around there is just kind of not really big news and not really going to be a difference maker.
Breaking news from practice in Winnipeg. They're wearing the Bieber jerseys. It looks that way tonight for this game against the Winnipeg Jets. And also, bit of a surprise in my world. Anthony Stolarz is in the road net as skate begins in Winnipeg, according to David Alter. So he's the projected starter. So they're going back to Stolarz here.
Good. I was gonna ask you about that, and then we went on to something else. What would you do there? I mean, this is a big game.
Yeah.
You need a win. You're 3 down. You got a big opponent in their barn. Winnipeg's 8-0. They're the hottest team in the league. I think, what has been one consistent over this entire season
Goaltending.
so far?
Yeah.
It's been Anthony Stolarz. And yeah, you want to get Joseph Woll on the board and get him a win and get him to start switch hitting with Stoli, but I just don't think it's tonight. I just don't.
Yeah, I feel the same way. If you want to get Woll in there, Thursday night, it's Halloween on home ice against the Seattle Kraken. They're in St. Louis coming up next Saturday. They got a back-to-back next weekend. So we're going to see Woll at least once this week, right? They got St. Louis and Minnesota, I believe, both on the road. But I'm right there with you. You go with your best foot forward. And right now, unequivocally, that is Anthony Stolarz. Rosie, I don't know how you felt. I thought he was really good. Again, he gave the team a chance to win 30 saves against the Boston Bruins. He's just been so exceptional. And this team is trying to win some hockey games, find its DNA, find its identity. I got no problem with it. And then along those lines, it's never a bad thing either, especially when you're dealing with a Joseph Woll who's coming back from a groin problem. Give him more practice time, give him some more rest days. There's no problem with that either.
Yeah, to me, it's just you want to put him in a position to have success. And, not that it was, he's got that game and didn't get the win. It wasn't ideal. You want to put him in a position where you can get him on track to feel good, have a shot of confidence. And I just don't think it's tonight. And you ride your hot hand. And I think that there'd be a lot more of a sky is falling mentality if we didn't have Anthony Stolarz and we weren't getting the goaltending that we were getting. But I think we're in the perfect spot in the season. It's not like the schedule's too much for Stoli. Play your hot hand while you have it and give the guy, I think Thursday is just a perfect opportunity for Joseph Woll compared to tonight in Winnipeg. And I'm not surprised that Stoli's starting, but eventually here, I think the MO is to get Woll a win, a solid game, and then kind of have these guys kind of pull up neck and neck and everyone's healthy and you forget about, the injuries and you can just kind of switch hit them as need be and ride the hot hand and just let them be what we wanted them to be in the offseason when these guys signed up. So not surprised about Stoli. I'm happy that he's in. I would do the same thing.
At the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. So obviously a monster game upcoming here against the Winnipeg Jets. Prime Monday Night Hockey feature presentation. The Maple Leafs 4-4-1, Winnipeg 8-0-0. Couple things to throw your way. The Leafs record against Winnipeg last year, 2-0-0. They outscored the Jets 5-2. And overall, I know you hate this. They've won 5 straight outings against the Winnipeg Jets. Furthermore, Connor Hellebuyck, his numbers versus the Maple Leafs in his career, 7-9-3, 3.07, 9.06, Rosie.
Yeah, they've kind of had the Jets number over the years, and it's nice to see, and hopefully that continues tonight. But going to that Calgary game, Hellebuyck, as good as he is, I think they were they exposed a weakness of him kind of going down early and leaving that short side open. They scored 2 from the goal line, so I hope the Leafs were watching that. I mean, that's something that Austin Matthews type of guy to be down there on that right side near the goal line and just kind of picking that short side.
Which game are you talking about?
Calgary. Calgary
played anyways. That wasn't Hellebuyck. It was their backup. Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck? I thought they said Hellebuyck. I was watching the highlights just now.
Oh, it's Comrie. Yeah.
Scratch that. Yeah, Hellebuck's solid though, and I mean, I don't like it when you go back to 2 years ago. How did the league? Who gives a rip? But you look at the numbers against Boston; they just continue to perpetuate themselves in the wrong light for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And hopefully, it's the same case here with the Jets, and they can continue to have success against them.
The lines from the morning skate, courtesy David Alter: Nyes, Matthews, Marner, Pacioretty, Tavares, Nylander. Zach and I hinted at maybe putting Pacioretty and Nylander together and maybe looking at Pacioretty in the top 6. We're going to see that. Yeah. McMahon, Domi, Holmberg, Lawrence, Kampf, Reeves. Who is the name we are not listing right now? Nick Robertson.
Bobby.
Looks like he's going to be a healthy scratch.
You got to do more to stay in the lineup. You got to justify your place. And a guy like Pacioretty comes in and he's noticeable and he gets things done. And I can't question Nick Robertson's work ethic. It looks like he's buzzing out there, and
Mhm.
it's just a matter of consistency and how you get that guy to be more consistent, more effective. I don't know. It's up to him, but I'm not surprised that, you give him a handful of games and then just absolutely nothing comes of it. I'm sorry, you're going to be the guy that comes out.
Yeah, and so that seems like it's going to be one of two changes. It looks like Timmins is going to come back in favor of Myers. We speculated upon that. Myers wasn't bad, but he didn't do anything to force his hand and be the guy who comes back in. And they've really taken a liking to Connor Timmins. I will say he has sort of seized the opportunity. I know it started in camp. If you do recall last year, before he got hurt, he had an exceptional camp, right? And I thought he had a solid camp. I think the coaching staff likes him, and I think he has certainly moved ahead of Lilligren. And you start to wonder what kind of roster changes we can see the next little while. Obviously, with these guys getting closer and Jarnkrok and Hakanpaa, right?
I know something's got to give here. And yeah, they're clearly have moved on from Lilligren and aren't really interested. Timmins has come in, he's not a world beater, but you just got to be solid at your job. You just got to be solid and reliable and do your job quietly, whatever. It doesn't matter. You don't have to light the world on fire and be the center of attention, but do your job solidly and be reliable. And that spot's up for you. And they've gone back forth with him and Lily, throwing Myers in the mix, but it seems like right now that is Connor Timmins' spot. I can see him like seizing that and being kind of a staple in there. Unless they really want to shop Lily around, maybe they throw him in again. But again, 8 out of 9 games he's been scratched or something
Yeah.
like. It's been a lot, so they clearly don't have him on their radar to be a guy that's gonna be with them. But things have to change before Jarnkrok and Hakanpaa come back. And I'm just curious to see what they are. I wouldn't be surprised if any random day of this week there's an announcement that boom, something's happening. So pay attention to that. And it's kind of interesting when the salary cap comes into play and contracts and things need to change for healthy guys to step into the lineup. It's I think that Tree's definitely working the phones right now.
Love the super chat from KPG. He is excited for the Amazon broadcast tonight. And if you do recall, the first Amazon broadcast the Leafs were featured on, pretty damn good against Tampa. So maybe they rise up with the Bieber jerseys on Amazon Prime. I love that.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to see how it's done again. It was done quite well. Like so many moving parts to a broadcast, right? And it's
Yeah.
easy to slip up and mix up with that and have these growing pains, but they did pretty darn good. Um, I like that. I don't know. There's something crisp about the sound or something. It's not in Toronto tonight, but it just had like a new vibe, like a fresh look to it, and it's interesting, kind of going onto your Fire Stick or whatever you use to pull up a hockey game. It's a little bit different, but I think Prime's in a good spot right now. And Monday night is something to kind of it's not taking over anything else or getting in the way of other things that you're used to. A Monday night, let's get on Prime and see how it goes. But yeah, I'll be paying attention to see how it looks, how it sounds, and how the whole broadcast is. Messier, just a different look to things, and I don't mind it at all.
So you talked about Timothy Lilligren, and I believe the LTIR guys are eligible as early as Saturday against the St. Louis Blues. I believe if you're on LTIR, it's the first 10 games. So it looks like Hakanpaa and Jarnkrok are getting closer. I do believe they're actually with the team in Winnipeg. So
Yeah.
I do think something has to give. I was curious to get sort of your opinion on the way they've handled Timothy Lilligren. For me, if you're a team trying to trade for this guy right now, why are you giving anything? Like, if I'm handicapping things, I think it's more likely than a trade that he ends up on waivers, Rosie.
Yeah, I know. Like, I mean, a right-handed defenseman that's capable of playing. We talked about, Utah with, a circumstance where 2 guys go down and you're desperate for a guy, maybe. But other than that, I think that his contract and his AAV is kind of holding him up. People are just like, you're not even playing him or want him on your roster. He's obviously not very effective, and he makes a healthy chunk. It's not like he makes 800 grand. He makes a considerable chunk of cash, and most teams are in the same position as the Leafs. They're trying not to add, a considerable chunk for not a world beater onto their cap. Most guys are trying to delete. So that's a very real possibility is that he goes on waivers, goes through, probably clears, obviously, or else just take him, I guess. And what else are you going to do? And obviously, no one's so far coughing up anything to get him. I think just getting him off the books is all they're looking for because
Yeah.
they've got more important things coming down the barrel, and he's had a chance and hasn't done a whole lot with it. So not a great spot for Timothy Lilligren right now. It
Oh,
seems like he's kind of at a dead end and is going to have to probably have a long road playing his way back into being a piece of somebody's team.
I feel for him. It could be worse though. He makes 3 sheets per season, right? That was the unique part of this whole thing. He's not playing. The guy makes $3 million per year to sit in the press box, and
Yeah.
the majority of the barns in the NHL have fantastic spread, including the popcorn. So it would hurt as a player, but I think it could be a much worse situation right now for Timothy Lilligren. You got to boot one D and one forward. Who are you booting from this roster in the next week? Who's the forward you're booting? We know we're both booting Lilligren off the roster.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's tough. Like, what has Nick Robertson done? What has he done lately? He had a good
One goal.
preseason. He had a good is he contributing in other ways? Is there ozone? It just doesn't. It seems like he's chasing a little bit, and just not producing. So unfortunately, with the guy that's where he's at, it's just I just wish. I know as much as anyone, just you just need one more gear. You just need a little bit more consistency. You need a little bit more production, not even just points, but just like what you accomplish out there. It seems like he's willing to work and he wants it, but he's just kind of chasing it around and not really accomplishing a lot. And unfortunately, the axe might have to fall on him. Time will tell. I'm glad it's not my job. It's a tough one, but he's definitely on the radar for being that guy.
A lot of people in the chat are pro Nick Robertson. I get it. I think I would agree with John Gallagher writes in Holmberg. I think there's higher upside with a Nick Robertson, albeit there's just so many moving parts to this thing. I haven't been that impressed with Holmberg's game. A lot can be said about the bottom six. Ryan Reeves, the last couple outings. David Kempf is a guy who I think is expendable. I'm probably in the minority, as I've mentioned time and time again. I actually believe in Calle Jarnkrok. I don't think he was healthy for the Stanley Cup playoffs. It is sort of a recency thing because 2 years back, he comes off his best statistical output of in the NHL, and Leafs fans were loving him. Great value deal. All of a sudden, everybody wants him gone. I think Jarnkrok could be primed for a bounce back here, and I want him in this lineup. I think they need that right-handed shooting forward as well. I think that's pivotal, and they don't have enough of it. And I think he's a guy who's very versatile, can play up and down the lineup. So I think to answer the question, it could be Holmberg. I put him on waivers. If he's claimed, he's claimed. And I'm sorry.
Well, it's got to be somebody, right? And I
Yep.
mean, there's reasons to believe in everybody, and at the end of the day, there is a bottom of the totem pole, and he's part of that. You mentioned Revo. I don't want to pile on Revo, but
Yeah.
it's your job to do certain things, and he hasn't really been doing them. There's opportunities for him to try to make an impact in the game and try to spark something and, right the ship when it's kind of going off course. He hasn't really been willing to do that for whatever reason. So that's kind of a head scratcher question mark that's there as well. Um, we're getting reports right now from producer Vic. They're mixing things up on this PP. Riley, Marner, Matthews, Pacioretty, and Nyes on the PP1. And then swap out to OEL, Nylander, Domi, McMahon, Tavares, PP2. So interesting. I like how Pacioretty is getting looks all over the place and getting opportunity. He seems, we said it when he signed, and they're not even paying him much. There's no risk in this guy, and he brings in, and he's got that pedigree and that ability to produce, and he's getting another look here on PP1. So interesting to see that right now. I just hope something gives on this power play story. Like, it's getting stale, man. My goodness.
I'm happy, Ben. It's something different. Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about the fact that the big change over the weekend in Boston was putting Morgan Rally back on PP1. They've gone nuclear with this thing. I love it. Again, what's the worst that can happen? You're 3 for 30 on the season. Like, I can't even get that out. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, like, do anything different, man. Do anything different. Put Simon Benoit out there to rip pucks at the net, at least try to get something going. But yeah, we'll be watching that closely. Something has to give. This can't last forever. And honestly, I just think shaking it up like that is got to be the answer to get something going. You can always go back to your number one, the one that's obvious, PP1, and do that. But when you're in this trench and in this rut, I mean, anything to shake it up.
I agree with you. So that gives you a further incentive to check out this game on Amazon Prime tonight. Prime Monday Night Hockey, the Leafs and the Winnipeg Jets. They're changing up the power plays. Of course, they're going to have to draw some penalties. It'd be very Leafy. They switch the units and don't get a power
They
play.
don't even get one. I could totally see that happening as well, but you got to watch to find out.
A lot of people in the chat writing about Jake McCabe. I guess just tuning in. Welcome at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. How much did McCabe get? He got a 5-year extension, 4.51 per season for Jake McCabe. We talked about it a bit earlier on, so go check out the start of the show. But we're both big fans of the Jake McCabe extension. At that price tag, it made a lot of sense. I was in the community that suggested unless the dollar value made sense, I would wait till after the season. Well, it made sense, and I think it was a good deal all around, Rosie.
Yeah, just get it done. There's a couple things that they can get off the books, and you never know if waiting is going to benefit you or not. But at the end of the day, they just wanted this done, wanted it signed, and it seemed to make sense, obviously, for both parties, or it wouldn't get done. But I think as a fan, looking at what you need and who you need to keep around, it's a nice deal. I just can't imagine anyone having much of an issue with that Jake McCabe deal. He's been what he's been advertised. He's been what he's been asked, and now he's going to be around a little longer.
Just looking as well, I guess the cap hit is a bit different because of deferred money. But no, actually, the AAV is 4.51. I know a lot of people were speculating it was 4.7, but there's some deferred money as part of the contract. So, yeah, I just think a really, really good piece of business. And Jake McCabe's had a really solid start to the season, so full credit to him. In a contract year, it's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase, today. What's your feel on this game, Rosie? I'm riding the Maple Leafs money line. I'm just putting it out there.
I heard that. I can't quite bring myself to do that, being as it is the red hot Jets and the Leafs just don't seem to have it right now. I am hoping you're correct, and I hope that the pattern continues of having success against Winnipeg, but I'm just going to sprinkle some on the three-way tie. It's plus 300. I could see this game going into overtime.
Fair enough. Looking forward to this one. Also looking forward to the Leafs Nation After Dark. As mentioned, Carter Hutton's going to be a guest with Zach Phillips tonight to recap and break down this game with the Winnipeg Jets. And Rosie, you and I will be back together tomorrow to break this all down and set up the rest of the week. The Leafs have 3 and 4 coming up Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, 2 of which will be on the road. The back-to-back St. Louis, Minnesota next weekend. They got Seattle on Thursday night.
Yes, sir. Nice little, this is kind of the big one, the big test, the Monday nighter after 3 losses in a row, trying to right the ship. So I'm excited for this one, and hopefully they can do just that and start to roll here, because there's opportunity for them coming up here to rattle off some wins and really start to figure out what they need here. And, maybe it starts with the power play changes tonight. We will see.
Mario Kart writes in, Revo to score tonight is a lock. He's from Winnipeg. If you do recall last visit to Winnipeg, Revo did score, so I like that look. Great value in that pick if you hit the anytime goal. And KPG to wrap. Rosie in that picture behind you, Nick, looks like Theo Vaughn before he got in a blow.
Theo Vaughn, eh?
Before he got in a blow, though.
Oh, before. I don't know the before and afters. I
don't either.
He is quite the character, but yeah, that greasy flow is rather similar to Theo's. Good call.
I've really enjoyed the upgrades to my set. I thought I looked kind of hack before, but we're in good. We're feeling good about the sets here on this podcast, and we're feeling good about all the listeners and the viewers as well. Appreciate it on a daily basis at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Many thanks to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk on Tuesday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.